Good morning and welcome to the 2021 Melanoma Research Foundation Advocacy Days. We are so excited to have you all join us here this morning, although we are a little sad that we're not all gathering in person, but hopefully you will all be extremely excited about the dynamic program that we prepared over the next few days and will feel energized and empowered by the great work that can be accomplished together. I want to start off by thanking our incredible industry sponsors who have generously supported the MRF's Advocacy Program and this special program today. Please join me in thanking them. Now, I would like to begin by providing an overview of the MRF and showcasing some of the great work that has been done this year, our 25th anniversary, and some of the plans we have going forward. So good morning again, and welcome to our first ever virtual advocacy days. I am really excited to have you all join us. And I wanted to provide a brief overview of the Melanoma Research Foundation. We're so excited to celebrate our 25th anniversary this year. And again, really passionate about the program that we're going to put on for you all over the next few days. So the Melanoma Research Foundation was founded by a patient 25 years ago. Her name was Diana Ashby. And at the time, she was experiencing her third recurrence of melanoma. Unfortunately, 25 years ago, there were very few treatment options, and she was really frustrated by the lack of research in the melanoma space. So she, along with her family and friends, banded together to raise money and really educate the community about the needs of melanoma patients, and thus formed the Melanoma Research Foundation. And unfortunately, Diana did lose her battle to melanoma, but her legacy lives on 25 years later, where we have many FDA-approved treatments for melanoma and more in the pipeline. So again, we're really appreciative to Diana for her advocacy and for lending her voice to help advance treatment options for melanoma patients. Today, our mission has changed a little bit. 25 years ago, the thrust was all on research and really helping to advance the field. Over time, the Melanoma Research Foundation has realized that there are multiple areas that we can be impactful. The second area is education, really educating newly diagnosed patients and their loved ones and advocating on the issues that matter most to the melanoma community. Our footprint today is also national. Although we are not gathering in person right now, we've hosted hundreds of events all over the country over the last 25 years, from fundraising events like galas and Miles for Melanoma walks, to gathering on Capitol Hill and lending our voice to the issues that matter most. We've really made a tremendous impact across the United States in many different communities where we've been able to educate those communities and advocate on their needs. So the first pillar of our mission is research, and it's a very multidimensional pillar because it's really research and scientific initiatives. So we are much more than a grant funder, although to date we've funded over $19.6 million in research grants, but we also focus on initiatives, scientific initiatives that are impacting the community. And these range from brain metastases to ocular melanoma, to mucosal melanoma, to some of the other rare subtypes like pediatric and acral melanoma. We also host scientific meetings to bring the medical community together to learn from each other and foster collaborations. And we also host an MRF Breakthrough Consortium, which is a collaboration of over 20 centers of excellence to work together on specific research projects. As I mentioned earlier, we have a strong focus in education. We receive over 300,000 hits every single month to the MRF website from unique information seekers who want to find out more about treatment options, side effects, and where to find support. So hopefully you all will take the time to visit melanoma.org and really see the offerings we have in the education space. This year alone, we became very creative and had to create much more digital content to help educate patients since we weren't hosting events in person. We've created dozens of webinars on topics related to side effects, up and coming treatments, support, the role of the caregiver, et cetera. And hopefully you'll take some time to really dive into that content because, again, it's really imperative to be educated so you can advocate on behalf of your own treatment plan. We also have animated melanoma patient videos. These are animations that are 3 to 4 minutes long to help educate on really complex topics. We're really excited to roll out new topics this year in 2021 related to genomics and non-invasive testing, as well as TIL therapy and clinical trials. We also formed a Cancer Has No Curve Resource Center. This was in relation to COVID because many patients were at a loss and felt very isolated during the pandemic as they weren't able to see their oncologist or their treatment team on a regular basis. So this was really a resource that we developed to bring cutting edge information to those needing it the most. We also sent out a survey at the beginning of COVID in conjunction with Save Your Skin Canada to really understand the needs of the melanoma community during the pandemic. We're really excited to do a follow-up survey this month to understand how those needs might have changed over the last few months and how access to care still remains a pivotal issue. We're also excited to share that in 2020, we had some great accomplishments. We released a new caregiver guide, and all of these resources are available on the MRF's website at no cost. They're available for digital download, or we can mail them directly to you so you can share them in your own community. Now I want to talk a little bit about the advocacy program, but I'm not going to dive too deeply because Cassie Beisel is really going to take over and share a little bit more about what we're doing in the advocacy space. But it's really important to know that the MRF has a very robust advocacy program that has only grown over the years. We've really become a voice that has been able to transform the melanoma space for patients and their loved ones, and have partnered with incredible institutions to help move the needle. There's many different bills that we've signed on to. We've partnered with the FDA, the NIH, the NCI. And when you go to the MRF website at melanoma.org, you can find out a little bit more about the different initiatives and call to actions that we've been a part of. We also produced our first ever advocacy booklet last year outlining the priorities of the MRF's program, and you can find that online. And we've also partnered with some incredible people. For those of you who attended last year, you got to meet many of them. But Representative Carolyn Maloney, who's lended her voice over the years to our prevention work and our Department of Defense funding, as well as Representative Kelly Cassidy from the state of Illinois, who's done some incredible work in access to care and no-cost skin screenings. We also presented Carolyn Maloney with our Congressional Champion Award last year for the tireless work that she's done on behalf of the melanoma community, not only helping us get DoD funding, but banning tanning beds for minors. We're also very dedicated to the adolescent and young adult population, and we've created some fantastic resources for them. Cassie Beisel, again, our Senior Advocacy Officer, presented at our Pediatric Summit just this past year on ways that young adults can help advocate on behalf of the melanoma community. We're also very invested in the rare subtypes, as we mentioned earlier, in our research platform, and we hosted our first ever FDA listening session in February of 2020 with ocular melanoma patients and caregivers, so the FDA could learn firsthand about their journey and help push through treatment options and other ways that the FDA could help advance this rare cancer. We also partnered with the FDA again on a webinar in 2020. This was again related to access, and we are always looking for ways that we can partner with organizations to help advocate and accelerate the melanoma voice. And with that, I want to show a video from last year, which highlights the great work that advocates did on the Hill and share why people are involved with the Melanoma Research Foundation. Enjoy.
My number one priority today is to raise funding through Congressmen and Congresswoman.
Coming here, telling my personal story has an impact and becomes a result is really super exciting.
It's not very hard once you start doing it. It might seem nervous, but once you do it, you could accomplish a lot.
Our fight and our passion comes from being able to speak for those people who can't speak for themselves. Skin cancer is an equal opportunity cancer, and anyone can be impacted. Advocacy is important to the Melanoma Research Foundation because we need to protect not only the 1 million that are living with melanoma, but the future generation who have melanoma.
So what drives my desire to be an advocate is my family, my husband, so we share our story to whoever will listen.
Any way we can help further the cause and get more groundbreaking cancer drugs to the market to help people like myself, the better.
We are honored and very proud to award Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney as the very first Melanoma Research Foundation recipient. Please join me in congratulating her.
As you know, 1 in 5 Americans will get diagnosed with skin cancer in their lifetime. What makes these statistics even more tragic is that most cases are preventable. I was really not aware of how deadly melanoma was until a 17-year-old girl came to see me from my district. She said, "I know I am going to die, but I want you to hear my story. You have inspired me today, and I'm going to put in a bill that bans the use of tanning machines for minors."
I saw how much the Melanoma Research Foundation did really about education, research, and prevention. And I definitely wanted to be a part of that. If there's a cancer that's 90% preventable, why would you not want to take steps to make sure that your children don't get that?
Being part of the Melanoma Research Foundation, we found a lot of strength and support. We have a 7 and a 9-year-old and showed them that their voice matters and you need to fight and share your story and you can make change.
I am an MRF advocate.
And I am an MRF advocate.
And I'm an MRF advocate.
Hope you enjoyed that video. Many of you probably saw yourselves in it. I know many of you have continued to come year after year to our Advocacy Summit and Hill Day, and we appreciate your support. This year, I want to briefly just highlight some of the advocacy priorities for 2021. And again, Cassie will go into greater detail on these. Year after year, we have focused on research. This is related to the Department of Defense and the LHHS appropriations bill. That will continue to be a focus as, again, men and women in our armed forces are at greater risk for melanoma, and that continues to be a wonderful funding source for melanoma research and one that we're very passionate about increasing. Prevention, again, we truly believe that by investing in prevention, we will change the odds of this disease. So that will always remain a top priority for the Melanoma Research Foundation. This year we've added access, and Cassie again will go into more detail here, but really supporting the removal of barriers to healthcare. This is an ever important and critical need in the cancer community overall. And education. How do we educate and empower the community to make change? So with that, I'd like to thank you all again for joining us this morning. Please don't forget to tag us on social media. You're going to have a great experience over the next few days meeting with your state representatives and sharing your stories. We want you to share those stories with the broader community as well. So please, again, go ahead and tag us, MRF Advocacy Days 2021. Those are our social media handles. And with that, I will just say thank you and introduce our Senior Advocacy Officer, Cassie Beisel, who will take you through in greater depth our advocacy priorities for 2021 and tell you a little bit more about what the next few days will entail. Thank you.
Thank you, Kylie, and good morning, advocates. Thank you so much for joining us for this virtual event in 2021. We're happy that you're able to make it and lend your voice for such an important cause. 25 years ago, a patient named Diana Ashby envisioned an organization to bring together all aspects of the melanoma community. The organization has grown dramatically since then, with the patient journey at the heart of the mission, and we are proud to serve as the voice of that patient. Since 2009, the MRF has worked with advocates from across the country on a local, state, and federal level, providing support to those living with and surviving melanoma, raising public awareness of the disease, advancing research, and improving the quality of care and outcomes for the millions of Americans impacted by melanoma. While the MRF's policy and advocacy efforts are primarily focused around our priority issues that I'm going to outline in a bit, we are aware there are additional policy initiatives that impact the melanoma community and will continue to impact the melanoma community. And we are dedicated to working towards better outcomes and long-term survivorship for the over 1.3 million people living with a melanoma across the United States and those who are going to be diagnosed. Now, I would love to share my screen and talk a little bit more about our 2021 policy priorities. So before I show you my slides, I just want to say thank you again for joining us for our first virtual advocacy days. I laugh because I never thought we would be here in this experience, but we are, and I hope that everyone here is staying healthy and taking care of yourselves and your loved ones. Again, thank you for joining us March 1st through 5th this year, and thank you to our generous sponsors of this event. So as mentioned before, I want to talk a little bit about our federal priorities for 2021, and that's basically that we're dedicated to better outcomes. Federally, access to care, access to treatments, and in our prevention efforts. First, federally, we are proud to continue our work in the Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program for the Melanoma Research Program. In 2009, we joined eligibility for part of the peer-reviewed cancer research program. We were one of about 17 other cancers that split funding. 2 years ago, we pulled out again into the melanoma research program. And since then, we have now are about to give away $30 million that were approved last year for melanoma research. Since the inception of the program, we have been able to get funding for more than $112 million since 2009, and that's begun because of the work that you all do as advocates. We also support an increase in funding every year for the National Institutes of Health and the National Cancer Institute. And are dedicated to better outcomes for prevention. We are dedicated to banning the TAN for under 18 use, and we are looking to do that this year federally by holding the FDA accountable for their proposed ruling in 2016. You'll hear more about that later today. And we're also talking about the access to sunscreen in schools without a prescription in order to start prevention at an early age. So far, there's about 25 states that allow that, but we really need to have all states get on board with early prevention for our children. We're also dedicated, and you'll see this year, no copay skin exams coming out on the state level. We're excited to let you know more about that later this year, and hopefully get many of you, if not all of you, involved on the state level, working towards providing, early prevention through skin exams to those states. Regarding our access issues, this year we've really taken a big step towards working on access. We were part of getting the Clinical Treatment Act passed, allowing Medicaid to cover routine costs associated with clinical trials. We joined, many other cancer organizations to be part of that work. We're dedicated to focusing on Medicare and Medicaid and access issues. For that, we focus on pre-existing conditions and the Affordable Care Act, making sure that everyone has access, again, to affordable and equitable care, and clinical trials, ensuring that there is equitable participation in clinical trials and that there's open access to them, and really pushing them, knowing that some of the best medicines are coming out in clinical trials. So working towards better education around clinical trials and ensuring that is a very feasible treatment option for all people who are facing melanoma and their rare subtypes, ocular, mucosal, and pediatric. Next, I would like to briefly overview our agenda for the next 5 days. Again, it's Monday, March 1st through Friday, March 5th. Later on today, you're going to be hearing from some amazing speakers. You'll be hearing a briefing on our Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program, or as we like to call it, CDMRP, because we love acronyms. and the Melanoma Research Program, which is what that federal funding benefits. So you'll be joined by Donna Kimbark, who is a return speaker for us. She's the program manager of congressionally directed medical research programs, and she'll speak to what we're looking for this year, why we're going for 40 million, and how you can share your story to help impact the outcome of that. Next, you'll be joined by Adam Telefaro, who is a strategic alliance lead at Bristol Myers Squibb, for a roundtable about your voice, how it matters, the strength of your story. Again, this is a legislative roundtable. We'll have some state level Cancer Caucus members and senators and representatives, again, on the state level, join us for a very informative roundtable about that. And then, of course, as always, we'll go over our legislative agenda piece by piece. It will be a review of the MRF's legislative asks this year and how to make the most of your meetings. I will join Ed at the end of this in order to talk about do's and don'ts and how to best practice your asks moving into your state caucus here, where you're going to be breaking out with advocates from your state to create an action plan for your congressional meetings, practice your asks, share stories, and assign a state spokesperson in order to get the most accomplished in your 15 to 30-minute meeting this year. Next, the second day, Tuesday, March 2nd, you're going to be off on your congressional meetings, both with representatives and Senate, depending on your scheduled meetings. And then at 4 p.m., we ask you to join us back for an advocate open mic night, where we'll have advocates sharing their stories and ask any other advocates who want to share their story with the melanoma community to be able to connect over shared lived experiences. Then we'll flow into Wednesday, March 3rd, where you'll have a continuation of congressional meetings, if that's what your schedule says. And we'll then ask you again to join us back on Congressional Town Hall at 4 p.m. for 2021 Healthcare Outlook. Carolyn Maloney of District 12 from New York will be joining us to not only talk about navigating the post-election policy landscape, but also really discuss her work for the Congressional Skin Cancer Caucus. She was, we were so humbled to be able to award her with the MRF's first ever Congressional Champion Award last year, again, for her amazing work over the years, not only with helping us with the Department of Defense funding, but also, again, her work on the Skin Cancer Caucus. She's really a dedicated member to the House and her work with skin cancer and melanoma. And then finally, Thursday through Friday, if you have been scheduled for meetings, you again will continue your congressional meetings at that point. And that will be the end after your last meetings on Fridays. If you have them, you will get a message from the MRF thanking you so much for attending again and giving you some follow-up to next steps instructions so you can continue your work and continue to contact, share your voice for better outcomes for all of those living with melanoma and those who unfortunately will be diagnosed in the future as incidence rates continue to climb. And again, if you need any education or wondering or want to take action virtually by sending letters to your congressional champions or your lawmakers during the event, you can visit our webpage at melanoma.org/advocate. You'll find advocacy webinars. You can review Civics 101, how a bill becomes a law, or learn how to influence policy. You can also, again, learn more about our priorities and our impact over the years. You can take action on defense-funded melanoma research or the NIH and NCI funding asks. We'll have those up there as well. You can also take action on banning the tan within the FDA and work towards more access to sunscreen in schools. Again, pre-existing conditions, Medicare and Medicaid, you can get a little bit more educated here and take action even during, after, or before your meetings by clicking take action on any one of those pages. Again, I would like to thank you all for coming, joining us virtually for our 2021 Advocacy Days. Your voice is so important to the fight and so important to providing better outcomes for not only those living with melanoma, but again, those who will be diagnosed in the future. Without you, we really can't do it. I hope you have a really good rest of your day. I hope you enjoy your briefings, and we'll be here to answer any questions you need. Again, this event is virtual in nature, and so please feel free at any time you need. There will be minimal breaks between each session, about 5 minutes, but please feel free to take a bio break as needed, or we understand if you have another meeting to attend to, but we'll be here when you return, doing our thing and talking about advocacy and how we can really make a change. Thank you. Have a great day.